Hello, Steve White, TrekBoy89 for SteveOuts89. Well, this is a bit random, but here in Australia, they have been showing Star Trek films every week on Fridays. Star Trek Fridays, I think they're calling it. And I haven't been watching it because obviously I've got all the Star Trek films on DVD and Blu-ray, and commercials and stuff. So I think I watched a little bit of motion picture and a little bit of Rafikhan just because I was flicking through the channels it was on. But it just so happened tonight that I had on the channel Gem, which it was a Channel 9 station. We had three major stations in Australia, 7, 9 and 10, and they've all got like multiple digital channels now. And I just happened to be watching it and it started, and I hadn't planned to watch it, but it was Star Trek 4. It's amazing. As soon as the music started, I just started like whistling to the music, and I swear to God, I pretty much cried. It was so emotional. I really loved this film, and I hadn't watched it in years. The last 3 years, if you're a Star Trek fan, has been hell, dealing with Discovery and all the just dismantling of Star Trek, and everything. It's just been a nightmare, and I've had spent so much time. It's so exhausting dealing with Discovery that you don't want to watch Star Trek because it's like you're just too tired to even think about Star Trek, even though that's not Star Trek. So I think, with the exception of Star Trek the motion picture, which I watched on the anniversary last year of the 40th anniversary, I don't think I've watched any Star Trek since just before Discovery aired, because I started watching the original series for the 50th anniversary. Actually, no, they started showing on 10 Bold, or used to have a different name before, one of the Channel 10 digital stations. They were showing Star Trek the original series remastered. And they were showing it like during the day, like 4 or 5 or something. And I was watching those because, for those who don't know, when they remastered the original series, they did all the visual effects in widescreen, and they cropped them to put them with the full frame original series episodes. And then when they put the show into syndicated TV and that in HD widescreen, they would include the original effects and then crop the original image of the TV show. So if you watch the DVD, the Blu-rays, you get the full image of the original series show, but you get the cropped special effects. If you watch the HD version on TV, you get the cropped original footage, but you get the full widescreen CGI effects. So I was watching all those episodes just to catch the effects in full widescreen, because they stupidly didn't make it available in both. I don't know why they couldn't have done that, or made a HD widescreen version of the show, even if it was just a collector's edition, or as a viewing option with the Blu-rays, like you can watch the old effects or the new effects. They could have done something like that, but they didn't. So the only way for me, as far as I know, to see them is to watch them on TV. So that's actually the last time I was watching the show, and that ran, I think it was last year. I don't think it's been on this year. So a couple of years ago, so it hasn't been on for a year or so. I can't remember. Then they started showing Next Gen, but the old videos, and so I haven't really watched Star Trek in ages. That was the point I was trying to make. I got a bit off track, and it was just really emotional because I love Star Trek. It is brilliant. Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home is brilliant. There are very few perfect films. There's like 2 shots in that film that are off, and that's it. One just doesn't work. I don't know why they included it. I'm not going to mention it though, because if you haven't noticed it, I don't hate people who spoil movies where they point faults out and then you can never not see them again. So I won't ever do that. But then there's another shot where they just hold it a little bit too long, and they even needed to have a couple of alternate shots of that thing, or just that shot should have been shorter because it just lingers a bit too much, like a second or two. That's it. Aside from that, the film is perfect. The humour is absolutely on point, but subtle. It's not over the top. It's all character humour. It's all things you have to get about the culture and the time. and to know Star Trek and our time, it works. So it's not over the top, it's not slapstick, it's not in your face, it doesn't get old, it's not a one punch sort of, you laugh once then it's not funny again because you know what's going to happen. It's just that sort of brilliant, clever, subtle character humour that works all the time, like when Julian says, "What the hell?" and there's a nun standing next to her, all those little things like that, which are just funny. Spock's use of, because of course they don't swear in the future, that unlike in the Prime universe where they do swear, they don't know how to use colourful metaphors. I mean, that whole running gag is just done brilliantly. The punk on the bus when everyone applauds after, Spock knocks him out. I mean, all those things are just charming and funny, and the movie is beautiful. It's about something. It actually had a cause. They did actually help Greenpeace and the plight of the whales back in the 80s. It actually helped. I think they got awards or something for the film from Greenpeace or other organisations. I think it was their film of the year or something like that. It's got a lot of accolades. It was one of the few films in the 80s shown in Russia and places like that because of its just goodwill, its peace message. It's just brilliant, and I just love it. And multiple times I was either in goosebumps or in tears. And also, I mean, I normally don't watch films on TV that I've got on DVD or Blu-ray because, ads and, I can't watch them in my time. But there's something about the communal experience and knowing that you're watching at the same time as other people, and maybe someone who's never seen it before, who's just discovering it for the first time, or people who love it like you are watching it. And I do sometimes find watching stuff on TV feels different from watching something on DVD or Blu-ray. Kind of like when you go to the cinema and you're feeling the audience because they're actually there. But sometimes watching stuff, and I kind of miss TV in a way. I mean, we're all watching our own digital channels and our own streaming and our own YouTube videos or whatever. I kind of miss the days where everyone was watching the same program and there was just that communal feeling and you could just talk about it the next day, the whole water cooler effect, I kind of miss that. It's not dead, it's not totally gone, but it's not the main sort of thing. So watching Star Trek 4 again was really great. Except for those few episodes of the original Star Trek, which I think, did I say Star Trek? Star Trek, which they were doing a bit past the 50th anniversary. I haven't really watched Star Trek. I've watched a few bits of the Next Generation episodes, and that just isn't flicking through the channels. I watch a scene or two, but I haven't sat down and watched a full episode for years. All I've watched is Discovery, Picard, and Lower Decks, so I could review them and attack them and try and protest them and try and do something about them in what little means I have. I mean, the most views I've ever got on a video is about 5,000, and usually I only get a couple of hundred, so I'm not exactly making a big splash. I'm not Doomcock. But yeah, I just wanted to make a video because I just want to talk about how much love I have for Star Trek 4 and how brilliant the film is. I'm sure anyone watching this has seen it, but if you haven't watched it, it's just perfect. Just everything about it is perfect. Originally I didn't like the fact that they were on the Klingon bird of prey because I wanted them on the Enterprise because that's where I want to be. I want to be on the Enterprise. That's the world you want to be in. But it makes so many elements of the story work and be possible. Like when they are trying to go through time, trying to go back in time, you don't know if they're going to make it. You don't know if that ship is going to fly apart. It's really, and when they crash and everything, like there's so many unknowns. If it was the Enterprise, you would know they'd be okay. They could make it, and if they had to crash, they could separate the saucer would be fine. All that's prepared for. The Klingons, they weren't really prepared for that sort of situation. They were prepared just to go down in flames. So there's elements like that work more now than when I was younger. And one of the biggest, saddest regrets of my life is I never saw the original Star Trek films in the cinema. I was too young. I missed them. I saw them all except Star Trek 6, I think, in a screening at the Palace Theatre, which is now gone, which is a classic sort of heritage theatre that existed for a long time in Australia, and it got torn down and turned to apartments a few years ago because, capitalists are evil. No one cares about art and culture. But I went there and I saw all the films except for 6. I think they showed 7 instead of 6, so it was like 1 to 5 and then 7. It was amazing seeing it. And I've seen it a couple of times since in the Astor Theatre. They did a double with Star Trek 3. They did 3 and 4. And I think they might have done a triple one, so 2, 3, and 4. Or I'm imagining things, I don't know. But I have seen it a couple of times on the big screen, and it's amazing. And yeah, I just really mourn classic Star Trek, and I'm just so grateful I was alive for that I lived through that era of Star Trek. Because when I was a kid, I watched the original series on TV in repeats, in syndication. I didn't know it was an old show. I watched I Dream of Jeannie and all those old 60s shows, and I didn't know they were like 30 years old, whatever. And then I rented all the movies, and then I bought them on video, and I watched them. Like every day after school, it was just like, which Star Trek movie am I going to watch before the news comes on, and Mum says, turn that off. And then there'd be primetime TV, and usually that mostly filled, the night. So it was my habit basically to watch Star Trek. And then when you got the series, I was watching episodes and that, but I watched the hell out of it. I watched it hundreds of times. I still saw, even though that era just ended and we were just getting to the next generation films, I still was aware of the films when I was really, really young. The last couple that they were made, I saw interviews and stuff, but I was like really young and I couldn't like go to the cinema by myself, and apparently nobody cared enough to take me there as a kid, so I could have seen like Star Trek 6 and I could have seen 5, I don't know. But yeah, I really wish I'd seen them as a kid. It would have been so amazing. I really envy. I know Mecca Random saw Star Trek 4 in the cinema when she was a kid. She's talked about that. I have a few friends who saw them when they were kids because their parents took them to them, because apparently their parents gave a fuck. My mum didn't have a car always. Like sometimes she didn't have a car, sometimes she did. Sometimes we were a 2-car family, sometimes we were a 1-car family. So, and Dad worked every day and basically never took holidays. So she couldn't just like take me to the cinema sort of thing. But he could have done it on the weekend if he actually thought of it. So I don't resent that. I'm not bitter. I'm not bagging my dad, may he rest in peace, but I wish someone had taken me. I mean, hello, you got a kid who's passionate about this thing. Why wouldn't you want to just... I would do that. If I had some friend's kid who like loved Star Trek, and there was a movie and it wasn't trash, like Discovery or something, I would be like, yeah, I'll take it, because I'd want to share that experience. That's one of the beautiful things about Star Trek. It was also a generational experience. The people who watched it in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s introduced it to their children and their friends, and that's why it lasted 50 years, because people loved it, loved everything about it, and they passed it on and they shared it, unlike Discovery, which no one's going to give a crap about in a few years. The political people who just appreciate it as a platform to preach from, they're going to move on to the next current preaching platform, because those preaching platforms, they age very badly. Like that scene in the new episode with the them they discussion, that'll be that'll be outdated and in like a couple of years, and it'll be cringe, and no one will be sharing that with their kids in 10, 20 years or 30 years. But people will be sharing Star Trek 4. So I guess that's some consolation. But I'm realizing I really need to rewatch Star Trek. I need to rewatch it to really just... All I've had for the last 3 years is negativity from Star Trek Discovery and Picard, and the Prime Universe. Because the Prime Universe films were good. They were their own thing. They had their own little action universe. It worked. But the Prime Universe TV series, which Discovery and Picard are, which they've finally admitted, which the anti-tracker pointed out that Kurtzman always wanted to make JJ verse, Kelvin verse, Prime Universe shows the whole time, but because Paramount owned the rights, they couldn't admit they were doing it. So that's part of the reason that they were lying. Not just that they wanted to sell it to the original fans and make them a watch, and get some of the less intelligent, less sophisticated, knowledgeable Star Trek fans to actually think that was Star Trek in the same universe, and to accept like a visual reboot as an actual real thing. But they couldn't, so they just did it anyway. And part of the reason they lied was just because they couldn't do it. They couldn't officially call it what it is, a Prime Universe show, because Paramount, in theory, could sue them, although JJ was in charge of it. So I think he pretty much gave Kurtzman his blessing to make his show, Kelvin, Prime, but they couldn't really admit it. So now they can call it Prime. So it's very interesting, and it's sort of what I wanted for a while. I wanted the show to end, and for them to go back to producing original series canon, original canon Star Trek, original canon universe. I don't know what to call it. Original universe, original canon universe, whatever. I really want them to go back to that universe and make those shows again, just, updated, modern, but the same universe. That's what I really want, but secondary would just be Discovery to end or whatever. I'm just waffling now, but I don't know, I'm kind of, I have this haze, this buzz from watching this great film that made me really happy and was really beautiful, and I haven't felt that for years because all I've watched is Star Trek Discovery and Prime Universe stuff, because I was always busy when I was watching the Star Trek episodes because I'm working that, so I'd just be like running over to the TV to have a look at the effects shots at the start of, like, after the commercials sort of thing. That's how I was watching those episodes. I didn't really sit down and watch them. And Star Trek the Motion Picture, although I did watch it for the 40th anniversary, it was really rushed because I kind of forgot about the date and everything, and I had to sort of squeeze it in and plan it, and I was kind of distracted by stuff I should have been doing. So I haven't really enjoyed Star Trek or a Star Trek film for like 4 years. So it was a real, this is what I've been missing. I've been talking about it and preaching about it and saying this is what's missing, what's wrong about this new show, but I forgot to just enjoy it. So I really need to rewatch the original series. I'm going to have to set aside a couple of weekends for it and just watch the whole thing, and just, I might marathon everything, screw it. I might start reviewing seasons or something. I don't know. Some people are doing episode by episode reviews of the shows, retro ones, and they just have it ongoing and they just work their way through the whole series. I don't know if I should do something like that. I don't think many people would watch it, but it might be fun, but also might make it work and take the fun out of actually watching them. So I might just do a season thing or something, or an episode highlight or something for the fun of it. Whatever I feel like talking about. For the fun of it. I just do this for fun. But yeah, I'm going to go. I have no idea how long we've been talking because I can't see my screen to see the time. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm just so glad I grew up in, like, the movie era of Star Trek. Like I said before, I had the original series as a kid, and then Next Generation, all that came on TV. Eventually we got it years after the rest of the country in Tasmania, and I got it on video and I watched all that, but I was aware of the films, and just that era was a really great era because everyone loved Star Trek then. There was no separation yet, because there was a little bit of that with Next Gen when it first started, then everyone accepted it, but there were sort of like the original fans and the Next Gen fans that were a little bit different. They both appreciated both series, but they weren't always, one. And then Deep Space Nine came out, and that started to split the fan base because it was war-based. By the third season, it became a war series, and dark and all that. And there was a little bit of fuss with Enterprise because it was a prequel, but then once people saw it, they realised they weren't really executing the prequel elements so much. It really was just another Star Trek series. People enjoyed it, and they really were upset when it was gone. Then we had this drought. The new movies, they were good, they were action, they got new people in, but they weren't really Star Trek, but they weren't the same universe, so it was okay. Then Discovery came and just undid all the goodwill, all the joy, everything. It was just a horrible, drawn-out, miserable experience. We're up to the 10th episode next week, so 9 weeks of Drek, and then the other 10 weeks of Lower Decks. Like, the whole 23 weeks of Star Trek is really grinding on me, because it's not Star Trek, and it's just miserable. So this was a nice little break, a nice little light that I sort of forgot about. So I'm going to find a way to work Star Trek back into my daily life, or do some marathons, because I really need it, and I need it to counter Discovery, because we've got 4 more weeks of that travesty, and then probably another season at least. But I really am going to go this time. Watch Star Trek 4 again. It will redeem your, like, faith in humanity in Star Trek. Thanks, bye.